You're listening to Writers Talk, the online radio show for authors and book lovers everywhere. Brought to you by Mithra Publishing, the third option.
Writers Talk, brought to you by Mithra Publishing, the third option.
Thanks for tuning into Writers Talk. I'm Kerrie Phipps, and today I'm talking to Kerrie Phipps, a woman who's known to millions all over the world as an entrepreneur who coaches other business people and authors to think big, achieve, and make the difference they were born for. Kerrie Phipps, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How are you?
Oh, I'm so well, thank you, Kerrie, and just delighted to be talking to you too.
Well, we're delighted that we could afford to pay you to be here, and the cheque will be in the post next week. Honestly,
excellent.
Kerrie, I've got a copy of your book here, Lifting the Lid on Quiet Achievers, in my hand here. And I was thinking to myself that an entrepreneur like you would know all of the answers associated with running a successful business. But then I thought to myself, did you yourself learn anything from reading these inspiring stories contained in the book?
Absolutely, Kerrie, and no, I didn't know everything there is to know about business. I don't know if anyone really does, but I would be a long way behind in that lineup. I think there's always something to learn, but I did feel incredibly privileged to be interviewing all of these entrepreneurs with all these different businesses, and they're at different ages. And I think a common theme that really emerged, and something that I'm so passionate about, is the thinking behind decisions that are made, and it's the solution focus. It's knowing that there is a solution to problems that come up, because people can give up because it just looks impossible, and it's not that it's impossible, it's more about how much you want it and what you believe about it, or what you believe about yourself. So when you know that there is a solution, you can go looking for it. But as soon as you make the decision that it's too hard, then your creativity immediately closes down. So I think that was just something that was reinforced through the book, and it's a message that I love sharing, because I love helping people unpack their thinking and generate insights, because that's where action is taken, and that's where transformation really occurs. So very exciting.
And I think it's very true that the way the business person thinks of their business can also be determined by the people they have around them. I think if you're surrounded by people who are negative, or who feel that there's always dangers and obstacles to overcome, wouldn't that affect your thinking, the way you think about your own company?
Absolutely, yeah. And we do need to really choose who we surround ourselves with, and you can't help who you're related to, and I'm very blessed to have parents and a husband who really believes in me. So when I come up with a wild idea, they're just like, okay, so when are you going to do that? What's that going to look like? How dangerous is it? But I know that they've got my back. They're so supportive. But besides that, I also have a lot of people who are like-minded, big thinkers, encouragers, and they've all made a significant difference. And I know that a lot of people who don't have the same family support can still reach out and build a network of people who believe in them.
How important is networking for an entrepreneur?
Well, if you're asking me, and I'm really biased, I think it's absolutely vital, but it's absolutely about connecting person to person. It's not about the solemn handshake and the passing of business cards and trying to connect business to business. It's we do business with people, so when you have a natural connection with somebody, that's great networking. So I could talk about networking all night because I'm passionate about people, but it's got to be genuine. But networking is just incredible. Like every amazing encounter just starts with a conversation. I have so many incredible opportunities open up just because I've struck up a conversation with a stranger, whether it's like on a train, a plane, just walking down the street and smiling at somebody, or connecting with somebody that I already know. But we just got to reach out and connect, and then all kinds of amazing things happen.
Well, what about social media? Because we've done interviews over the past couple of weeks where we've looked at the uses of social media for marketing your business. How important would you say social media is for the budding entrepreneur?
Well, that's another thing I can get a bit passionate about because it's about people, and unfortunately, people can lose sight of that and just be on social media to market, to network, and again, they can lose the sense of this being people that you're connecting with. So, don't get me started on Facebook or, or social media, because I think we have to remember that it's people you're connecting with. They don't want you to just send them a link and say, like my page. They'd like you to introduce yourself. I think it's just a reflection of the outside world. Just sending somebody a personal note along with a friend request. Making contact, not just expecting people to jump at what you're sending them. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, absolutely. And what's your preferred social media? Because I know that there's been a lot of pros and cons of using Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the other platforms. Which ones do you prefer?
Do you know, I don't know if it's about preferences or just what feels most natural to us, like what we're actually good at. And Facebook just makes more sense to me. I just find it more user-friendly. So I do a lot on Facebook. I do some tweeting because I have, a great network on Twitter who are not necessarily on Facebook, and that's okay. And then there are other people who really want to connect on LinkedIn. And, we all have different perceptions of what they're about.
How much pushing should we do when it comes to promoting our brand through something like Facebook?
That's a tricky question because I don't tend to have, a personal hat and a business hat that I switch between, during the day or during the week. I'm just me. I'm just me online. But sometimes I will think, I haven't said anything about about my work for the last month or so, and people do wonder. So and some friends have said to me, Kerrie, you're promoting everybody else on Facebook. You're sharing everybody else's exciting news, but what are you doing? So I can tend to shy away from promoting myself just because I guess that's just me. So I have to remember, I should put a link through to my book page, but it's not, in terms of relationships, it's not business and personal, it's just my life, and people are welcome to connect.
What inspires you? What excites you, Kerrie? What makes you get up in the morning and say, right, let's go and do this?
Would you be surprised if it was a word starting with P?
Pepsi Cola?
No, I just love people.
People was my next option, not Pepsi Cola. Who wrote these notes? People? What do you mean, people?
Like every day there are amazing conversations to be had. I'm incredibly privileged to connect with the most inspiring achievers. But, even if it's, someone at the supermarket, there's still like a person who, is valuable and precious. And so I think I just love honouring people and connecting with people wherever I can. Because you never know what's around the corner. I just love connecting with people, and I love encouraging people and lifting people. Sometimes people just need a smile. But I don't get to just smile at people. I get to ask them questions that unlock insights, and they just go, oh my gosh, I haven't seen it like that before. That's so amazing. And so they start making changes that take the pressure off them, that enhance the communication at work or at home, and the impacts of that are just phenomenal.
And I'd imagine you also get a buzz from that Eureka moment, a moment when you can see a light bulb coming on in the client's head and their eyes suddenly just springing open.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And then we pay attention to that insight and say, what are we going to do with this, and what does it mean for you? And by paying attention to insight, it develops it further. It makes it stronger in the brain. Because a new idea, how fragile it can be. I'm sure you might relate to, going to bed and having a great idea and thinking, I should write that down. And you wake up in the morning and go, what was that? And it's a fragment of inspiration that just on the very verges of on the edge of your consciousness, and you're like, what was that idea?
I've tried that. I've actually woken up in the middle of the night, written a note, and went back to sleep, smug and smiling, thinking I finally found the answer. and then you wake up in the morning, you read your note, and it says, "Everything tastes of oranges." And you think, well, what's that? What's that got to do with anything?
I'm just write on, have a glass of orange juice, write out the whole story so that it makes sense to you in the morning.
I need to go back to sleep, don't I, and just do it again.
Yeah, but if it's a great idea, if it is that moment of insight, write about it, talk about it, and it does strengthen the networks in the brain. So I get my clients to really pay attention to those new insights, getting them to acknowledge themselves. And this is different in some countries, but in Australia, we're not very good at acknowledging ourselves. We're not good at saying, well, I think what I did really well in that conversation was, or I think what I did well at work today, or I handled that conversation better than I would have last year, and what I did well was ... It's not a natural thing. We tend to just beat ourselves up and notice what went wrong. But when I ask my clients to acknowledge themselves and to pay attention to what's working, that just increases, the great outcomes. It increases their success. So that's a whole lot of fun as well.
Well, give us a potted history of Kerrie Phipps, because we all know, he says, we all know that you were born in a place called Gilgandra in New South Wales in 19 something. How did you get from Gilgandra to where you are now?
Well, it's 1 hour drive down the road. I actually, you must know that I have very humble beginnings, and still humble beginnings, I feel. But I was very, very shy, and
you were very shy.
Oh yes.
I don't believe that. Is that what your agents told you to tell me?
I don't have an agent.
You haven't? Excellent.
I know. I just have a great team of supporters around me. But no, I really, really lacked confidence immensely. And so school was very, very challenging. So I actually left school at the age of 15 because I could not have handled another year. It was really quite traumatic by that point. And my first job, I actually got it because I was determined to prove somebody wrong. My teacher at TAFE, it's a secretarial college, she said to me one day, "You'll be the last person in this class to get a job." And because I had, lost interest, and I was not doing as well as I'd done for the first 3/4 of the year, I was just tuning out. And that statement really woke me up, and I thought, well, I'm off job hunting. So I was the first person in the class to get a job rather than the last one. And that was a job as a dental nurse. And that was, because of my family name, because my family had been patients at the dental surgery since my dad was a little boy. And very well-respected family. And I walked in there. I just pretended to be confident. I went in with my resume and asked if they were looking for anybody. And so they didn't realise that I was faking my confidence. But it was really, it was really a facade. And even since then, different things occur during life that just really rips your confidence to shreds. So you grow it, and then stuff happens, and then you lose it. But I guess I've just rebuilt it, and I must give credit to my husband. And sometimes he comments on this wild adventure. He didn't sign up for this.
I want out.
No, he's never wanted out. He loves me, but he doesn't like my thinking and adventurous spirit sometimes. And I'm much like my dad. And sometimes he goes, "Oh, I just didn't see this happening. I didn't think you'd be, doing all this traveling and writing books and speaking and having all this followers and community online and I say, well, darling, it's half your fault because you've believed in me and encouraged me, and I've just run with it." So he really has made an enormous difference to my confidence.
This is my attempt to name drop now, which is quite feeble because it won't actually mean anything to you in Australia, but to anybody listening from the United Kingdom, they're going to be completely awed by this. I interviewed a guy called Trevor McDonald, who is a newsreader in this country.
Yeah.
And he was one of the most well-established, well-recognised, and certainly well-respected newsreaders in the United Kingdom. And I interviewed him, and he said to me that despite all of his accomplishments, he always has a niggling feeling in the back of his mind that at some point somebody is going to find out about him, and they're going to realise that he's not as good as people think he is. And this is somebody who's been knighted by the Queen. You know, the Queen has said, "You are Sir Trevor or Sir MacDonald, whatever." But he actually said that, you know, he fakes confidence just like you did those many years ago. Do you think that's a common trait amongst most entrepreneurs?
Absolutely, but I don't think the fear has to stay there. But it probably depends on, you know, what circles you move in and everything. But, you know, it really came up with a client recently, and I just thought, wow, I asked her, you know, how does that feel? And when she realised it, and she said, oh, it's so heavy. It's like such a burden. And I think the key is just to absolutely be yourself. And, and I don't need to be found out that I'm not altogether wonderful and fabulous, because I'm not, you know. So I'm not. And when people say I am, it's like, yeah, hello, but I'm just, I'm real. I'm just real like everybody else. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in business, and it's worth being in business just for this, is just learning to be myself. If I just be myself, then I connect with people who just want to work with me as myself. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a much more fulfilling and long-lasting relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just liberating to not have to do every day trying to hold it all together. And I did have a season in my life like that. Well, I mean, probably it was all like that until, you know, everything fell apart about 10 years ago. But there was, you know, in different roles, I felt that because I was leading an organisation, I felt like I did have to have it all together. I didn't have a safe place just to be myself and to say, you know, I'm not really doing as well as everybody thinks I am. And, you know, I couldn't say I'm actually not very good at, you know, these aspects of my work. I just felt that I had to be good at everything. Now I can just say, wow, I think I'll outsource that. You know, I have to work with people who have strengths that I don't have, and not be threatened by it, but appreciate their strengths.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. I'm sure a lot of our readers, our listeners, are nodding their heads in agreement with you on that one. Just going back to your book, Lifting the Lid on Quiet Achievers. This is your discussion with a number of entrepreneurs on how they've made their businesses work. What would you say were the key factors that entrepreneurs should bear in mind when they start a new business venture?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is be authentic, because we've just been talking about that, but Ellen Bathgate talks about that. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to ask for help. And, you know, and you've probably heard me say this already about being yourself, being authentic. This came up for me recently, Kizzy, when you asked me to write a chapter for your customer service book, which I'm very excited about seeing soon. And what I did was I shouldn't tell you this now, but this is this is what was going on. Okay, Kizzy, yes, I'll do this chapter, but oh my gosh, where am I going to fit this in? Right, I'll just do it now. So I sat down and just wrote this chapter, and with whatever the word count was you gave me. So I posted it on Facebook, and you probably get that I love Facebook. Put it on Facebook. Does anyone have any time just to do a quick read and edit and, you know, give me feedback on a chapter I've written for a book about customer service? So the first comment I got from a friend saying, yes, please send it to me, is one of Australia's foremost speakers and coaches on customer service and the retail, you know, merchandising sphere. She's an absolute champion. And I met her years ago and haven't seen her since, but we've connected on social media. So I don't know how much she knows of me, but she was really keen to read it, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've got a professional. Anyway, sent it off, and then she started chatting, and she said, oh, technically it's really good. I agree with everything that you say, because I shared a lot of insights from neuroscience, which is something that I've been studying in relation to coaching and leadership. But Deb said, I agreed with it all, but where's Kerrie? Where's the passion? And I went, oh, wow. Oh, that is such good feedback, because I did it again. I forgot to just be myself and just speak from the heart, and I put my professional hat on. And so I said to her, okay, forget that one. And so I just wrote another one. I thought, I'm not going to try and edit it and put passion into what I've got. I'm just going to scrap it and start again. And so then I just wrote from the heart, and I sent it off, because I thought, it's going to an English publisher. It's going to be like, this book is going to be so proper. And, and here's this girl from, country Australia just having a go and writing from the heart. But I thought, well, I'll just send it off, and if they accept it, they accept it. And I believe you did.
Yes, we did, and it was a fantastic chapter. But I tell you what, if we'd known you were a country girl from Australia, we'd have read it with different eyes and probably said to ourselves, this is quite a remarkable achievement. But we just read it on face value, and it was fantastic.
And it was really funny when I sent her the next chapter, the revised, Kerrie Phipps, passionate, being myself version. She just went, oh, yay, that's it, there you are. And I just went, yeah, that's great. And she's like, you sure you're not on the floor crying? And I'm like, no, I really appreciate that feedback, because I've learned the value of feedback. And so I don't want people to just say, oh, well done, Kerrie, that's nice. I want them to say, to tell me what's missing, or to tell me how I can improve it. And so for her to just say, where's the passion? I knew exactly what she was talking about, and it just brought me back to being myself again. So that was absolute gold, and just such a privilege to write a chapter for your book, Kizzy.
And it was a privilege to have you contributing to the book, Kerrie. And I think I can say, yes, the producer's given me a thumbs up, I think I can say that the book, Customer Service, is one of our most popular titles to date. And we may well be doing a sequel. So who knows, I might be talking to you again about another chapter in the very near future.
I'll tell you what, we could have like another whole conversation just on customer service. I am so passionate about it, because it's about people, as we covered earlier.
I know you're passionate about customer service, Kerrie, and I think a lot of our listeners are too. But before we venture down that road, let's take a brief pause for the ad break, and we'll come back in a few minutes. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to Writers Talk, and I'm talking to Kerrie Phipps, author of Lifting the Lid on Quiet Achievers. See you in a few.
I love listening to Writers Talk on Mithra Radio.
Hi, this is Erin Tillotson, and you're listening to Writers Talk, brought to you by Mithra Publishing.
Hi, I'm Laura C. George, the business coach for creatives, and today I'd like to talk to you about a new book that's out called Facebook for Business. In my chapter, The Relationship Builder in Facebook for Business, I answer all of your burning questions about how to use Facebook for Business, including things like how do you approach Facebook for Business, how do you get good attention instead of the bad attention on Facebook. I teach you how to stop wasting your time commenting all over your Facebook. I tell you why you shouldn't be looking for new followers on Facebook. Yeah, that's a big one. Sound crazy? You've got to read this chapter. I also tell you how the 80-20 rule applies to your posts and what exactly do you post. And then here's the kicker, my favorite part of the entire chapter. I teach you where to draw the line on how personal is too personal for Facebook. And I know that's a difficult one, and I'm going to teach you where you're supposed to draw it and how you're going to figure out what fits for you, and you're going to draw that line of how personal you're going to get on Facebook. So if you're interested, I would love it if you checked out Facebook for Business, the new book that's out. Again, I am Laura C. George, the business coach for creatives, and I hope you'll check out Facebook for Business.
I'm Gregory Gower, and you are listening to Writers Talk, brought to you by Mithra Publishing.
Nobody expects you to have it all together, and I think to reach out and ask people for advice, it's amazing how many people are willing to offer their support. But also, don't be afraid to pay for the right support. Get a coach, get a marketing expert, get somebody, or a few somebodies. And I've had quite a few people on my team at some stages. But outsource your weaknesses or the areas that you're not so strong in. Get your thoughts out and get them clear, because I think sometimes we can rush into things without having fully processed our thinking. you might identify that there's something in your plan that you don't really believe in. So that needs to be sorted out.
And if you get really stuck, you could always get a copy of Lifting the Lid on Quiet Achievers, which will hopefully give you a few shortcuts as well.
Well, I think it might actually. There's a distant relative of my husband's who has contacted me because she got the book and she's read it over and over, and there's a particular chapter that really spoke to her, and she tracked down the other lady that I'd interviewed and called her and said, this has just changed my life. And she has set up a business and she's doing extraordinarily well, but she's really thinking it through and starting off very grounded, and yeah, she's laying a great foundation. So wow, I didn't expect that kind of feedback about the book, and I don't think Bronwyn did either about getting that phone call. It really, really made her day, or her week, or her year.
And on that high note, which I think is a fantastic way of ending an interview, I've got to say thank you very much, Kerrie. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you, Kizzy. Lovely to talk to you too.
Writers Talk, brought to you by Mithra Publishing, the third option.